Welcome. Today's story will leave you speechless. Subscribe now and share your reaction in the comments. Here we go. My name is Rachel. I'm 41 years old, and for 8 years I was married to a man who was living a completely double life. I had no idea. None. Not a single clue. Until the day his other wife showed up at my front door. I met Daniel when I was 30. He was a sales executive for a pharmaceutical company, which meant he traveled constantly. 3, sometimes 4 weeks out of every month, he was on the road, visiting clients, attending conferences, closing deals. It was just how his job worked, he explained when we first started dating. If I wanted to be with him, I needed to be okay with him being gone a lot. I was okay with it. I'm pretty independent. I have my own career as a graphic designer, my own friends, my own hobbies. We dated for a year, got married in a small ceremony, bought a house in the suburbs of Phoenix. It wasn't a traditional marriage. He was gone more than he was home. But when he was home, we were happy. At least, I thought we were. Daniel was good at compartmentalizing. When he was with me, he was fully present. He'd help around the house, we'd cook dinner together, we'd watch movies, make plans for the future. He'd talk about his work trips, the boring meetings, the terrible hotel food, the clients he couldn't stand. It all seemed so normal. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way he'd never let me come with him on trips, even when I offered. The fact that he had a separate phone he said was just for work. How he'd always pay cash for things instead of using credit cards. The way he kept his work life and home life completely separate. But at the time, it just seemed like how a traveling salesman lived. We talked about kids sometimes. I wanted them, but Daniel would always say, "Not yet," or "Let's wait until my career stabilizes." Years went by. I turned 35, then 37. I started bringing up kids more seriously. He'd get defensive, say he wasn't ready, that maybe kids weren't for him. We'd fight about it, then he'd leave for another work trip, and by the time he came back, the fight would be forgotten. 8 years. I wasted 8 years of my life with this man, never knowing that while I was waiting for him to be ready for kids, he already had them. 2 of them. With another woman. In another state. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday morning in March. I was working from home, in my pajamas, drinking coffee, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there was a woman standing there, maybe 35 years old, with 2 young children. A boy who looked about 7 and a girl who looked maybe 5. "Can I help you?" I asked. She just stared at me for a moment, then said, "Are you Rachel?" "Yes, who are you?" "I'm Catherine. I'm Daniel's wife." I actually laughed. "I'm sorry, there must be some confusion. I'm Daniel's wife." She didn't laugh. She just reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of documents. A marriage certificate, dated 3 years before mine. Photos of her and Daniel at a wedding. More photos of them with the 2 children. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, family vacations. "Daniel and I have been married for 11 years, she said, her voice shaking. "We have 2 children. We live in Denver. And I just found out yesterday that he has another wife in Phoenix. You." I couldn't process it. It felt like a prank, like hidden camera show. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. But Catherine came inside, and for the next 3 hours we sat at my kitchen table and compared our lives. And piece by piece, the truth emerged. Daniel had been working for the pharmaceutical company when he met Catherine in Denver. They'd gotten married, had their first child. Everything seemed normal. Then he'd told her his company was expanding, that he needed to travel more, spend weeks at a time on the road in different regions. He'd be gone, then come home to Denver for a week or 2, then gone again. During one of those work trips, he'd met me in Phoenix, started dating me, married me. All while Catherine was at home in Denver with their son, pregnant with their daughter. For 8 years, he'd been ping-ponging between us. 2 weeks in Denver with Catherine and the kids, 2 weeks in Phoenix with me. Always claiming he was traveling for work. Always with an excuse for why we couldn't reach him at certain times. Always keeping us separated, isolated, unaware of each other. "How did you find out?" I finally asked her. Catherine explained that Daniel had been in a minor car accident last week in Denver. Nothing serious, but the insurance company called her about it. Except the car that was hit wasn't registered to them. It was registered to an address in Phoenix. My address. She'd hired a private investigator. Within 2 days, she had photos of Daniel and me, together, at our home in Phoenix. I packed up the kids and drove here today, she said. 12 hours. I had to see it for myself. I had to know if it was true. We were both crying now. These 2 children were just sitting on my couch, confused, probably terrified. The little boy kept asking his mom what was wrong. She kept telling him everything was fine, but her face told a different story. I called Daniel. He was supposedly in Florida for a conference. When he answered, I put him on speakerphone so Catherine could hear. "Hey, honey, what's up?" he said, casual as anything. "Where are you right now?" I asked. "In my hotel room in Tampa. Why?" "You're lying. Catherine is sitting in our living room. With your children." There was dead silence. For a good 10 seconds, nothing. Then he hung up. He never came home. Not to Phoenix, not to Denver. He just vanished. Later, we found out he'd drained his bank accounts and fled. The pharmaceutical company he supposedly worked for? He'd been fired 3 years ago for falsifying expense reports. He'd been doing some kind of freelance consulting work since then, just enough to maintain both households, but barely. Catherine and I hired a lawyer together. We filed for annulment, reported him for bigamy, which is actually a felony. The police put out a warrant for his arrest. It took them 4 months to find him. He'd been hiding out in Mexico, running out of money, living in cheap hotels. He's in prison now. 3 years for bigamy, additional time for fraud and identity theft. He'll be eligible for parole in 18 months. Catherine and I became strange friends through all of this. We had to. We were the only 2 people who truly understood what we'd been through. We'd text each other about court dates, about therapy, about how we were coping. Our lives were so intertwined by his lies that we couldn't completely separate even after it was over. The thing that haunts me most is how good he was at lying. He never slipped up, never mixed up names or details. He kept perfect track of 2 completely separate lives. He remembered birthdays, anniversaries, important dates for both families. He was essentially living as 2 different people. Catherine asked me once if I thought he loved either of us. I don't know. How can you love someone while deceiving them so completely? Maybe he convinced himself he did. Maybe he was just a sociopath who enjoyed the thrill of getting away with it. I'll never have kids now. I'm 41. I wasted my prime childbearing years with a man who was already raising children with someone else. Sometimes I'm angry about that. Sometimes I just feel sad. But mostly, I feel grateful that I found out when I did, and not 10 or 20 years later. I've been in therapy for 2 years now. I've dated a little, but I have massive trust issues, obviously. How do you trust anyone after something like that? How do you ever believe what someone tells you? But I'm working on it. I'm rebuilding my life, one day at a time. I sold the house in Phoenix. Too many memories. I moved to a new city, started fresh. I have good days and bad days. On good days, I feel strong, like a survivor. On bad days, I feel stupid for not seeing the signs. Catherine is doing better than me, I think. She has the kids to focus on. They're in therapy too, trying to understand why their dad lied, why he's in prison, why their whole life was built on deception. She's an amazing mother. She's protecting them as best she can from the ugliness of what their father did. Sometimes people ask me if there were red flags, and yes, of course there were. But when you love someone, when you trust them, you explain away the red flags. You make excuses. You believe their explanations because you want to believe them. If I could go back and tell 30-year-old Rachel one thing, I'd tell her to trust her instincts. When something feels off, it probably is. When someone keeps you separated from parts of their life, there's usually a reason. When the pieces don't quite add up, it's because something is missing. I'm Rachel. I'm 41 years old, and I spent 8 years married to a man who had a whole other family I never knew about. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell icon for notifications when I post new stories. And please, Share your experiences in the comments. If you've been through something similar, you're not alone. We're all healing together. Thank you for listening.